In this video, we're going to talk about what EFC means in the financial aid process. So EFC stands for Expected Family Contribution. It's basically a measure of you and your family's financial strength. So when you fill out the FAFSA form, which can be done at fafsa.ed.gov, you're going to get a student aid report in a few weeks, right? So you're going to get the student aid report, and it's going to have a number on it called the EFC. And the EFC, or expected family contribution, could be something like, let's say, $5,700. It could be zero. It could be $30,000. Again, it's a measure of you and your family's financial strength and ability to pay for college. And so the EFC is calculated, it's basically, it's going to have two parts, and it's not going to tell you this on the student aid report, but there are two parts to it, and one part is your contribution, the amount that you should be able to pay as a student based on your income, your assets, and then also your parents' contribution, right? And it's based, again, remember the FAFSA, it's based on the custodial parent. That's the parent you were living with in the last year. So there's a specific formula that converts based on the number of assets that you have as a student or your parent has, or if you're independent, it just completely ignores your parent. And so this formula is going to look at the income, assets, and it's also going to look at your family size and so forth, how many people are in college. And you can actually go to this studentaid.ed.gov, and you can look up and find the EFC formula. It changes on a year-to-year basis slightly. So look up the year for the year that you're applying for college, and you can actually see the specific formula. And so the EFC, once you get it, it's one number, and again, it's just for 1 year, because you're going to apply for you're going to do the FAFSA again the next year and the year after that. So let's say it's $1,200. Let's say that's your EFC. Well, that EFC is going to be the same whatever school you apply to. So if you apply to 3 different universities and your EFC was determined to be $1,200, that information is sent to each of those 3 universities, and they're going to take that into consideration, this $1,200, when they're determining how much financial aid you get. But it's not like one school has one EFC and another school has a different EFC. The EFC that you have calculated for you by the federal government, that's just your EFC wherever you go. And the reason that the EFC is important is because it's going to be used to calculate what's called your financial need. So each university, they're going to go and say, well, what is our cost of attendance? If you look at the university, you can see that they'll have published what their cost of attendance is. The cost of attendance is going to include things like tuition, room and board, books, and so forth. The cost to attend that university. So the cost minus this measure of your family's financial strength, so let's say that $1,200, that's going to be the financial need, right? So let's say that the cost of let's use an example here. Let's say that we've got this $1,200. Let's say that's your EFC, and that at one school, university number 1, the cost of attendance is, let's say, $50,000, and so your EFC is $1,200. So at that school, your need would be $48,800, right? Just the $50,000 minus the $1,200 at university number 1. Now, let's say that there was a second university you applied to, university number 2, and they have a different cost of attendance. Let's say their cost of attendance is $30,000. Well, your EFC is still going to be $1,200, okay? But now it's going to be, your need is going to be determined to be $28,800 at university number 2. Now, just because the needs are different doesn't mean, oh, well, I'll definitely end up going to university number 2. It depends on how competitive an applicant you are at that university. That is going to affect how much of the need that university decides to meet for you, right? So this university number 1, they might be able to meet your full need, or they might have a portion of it that they don't meet, and then that's called unmet need, right? So they might have a portion that they're not able to meet this entire financial aid that you need. So don't get too hung up on the sticker price of the school and so forth. Just understand that the EFC is going to be used in this calculation where you're looking at the cost of attendance at a school, you subtract the EFC, and then the financial administrators of that school can use that and say, okay, that's what this student's financial need is. And now, a couple of things I want you to really understand. EFC is not necessarily what you're actually going to pay. It sounds weird because it's the expected family contribution. And so we're trying to measure, well, what could a student and his or her family afford to pay, right? It's student contribution, parent contribution. So it seems like, okay, well, $1,200, if you see that's the EFC, that will absolutely be what you pay for college that year. But you might pay more, right? If you have some unmet need, you might end up having to pay more than that $1,200. Or you may actually pay less than that $1,200. For example, let's just say you get a full tuition scholarship and you're an amazing athlete, or you have something. For any number of reasons, you could end up paying more or less than what the EFC is. So don't take it as gospel that you get this number and think, oh, that's what I'm absolutely going to pay for college this year. And bear in mind also that EFC, you get this number and you might get confused and think, oh, is this the actual amount of aid that I'm going to be receiving? That's not the amount of aid you receive. So when you get your SAR, your student aid report, and you see that EFC, whatever number that is, remember that the schools that admit you, they're going to come up with an offer package, right? You're going to get an actual financial aid package in the mail. It's going to say, oh, you got a Pell Grant, or you got this, or you got that, or we're going to give you this university scholarship. This offer package is going to give all the details of how the school intends to meet your need, and if there's any unmet need, and so forth. So the EFC itself is not the amount of aid you'll receive. You'll get that when the schools actually send you their financial aid offers. And remember, too, that the EFC is going to change the next year because you have fill out the FAFSA every single year. Now, if for some reason you have some kind of unusual circumstances, maybe somebody in your family had some kind of medical situation that was very serious, or somebody just recently became employed. Maybe your parents made a lot of money last year, but then your mom or dad became unemployed, and there was a significant drop in income, but your EFC is kind of high, and it doesn't really reflect the fact that, hey, we just had this serious medical disaster or something like that. And if that's the case, if there's some kind of unusual circumstance, you should definitely go and talk to the financial aid office at the universities that you're interested in applying to and explain the situation and see if any kind of adjustment or leeway can take place to reflect the fact of this new